Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream Sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream Queen Size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal Queen Size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in. This weekend, we're going to have a little bit of a different show. This has been a sad, sad week in that we lost a conservative warrior in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So we're going to take some time today to update you on the accused, where that stands with the arrest yesterday. And we're going to take some time, too, to look back on Charlie Kirk's achievements, of some of the classic moments of Charlie doing what he did best, debating the issues in a calm, courteous, and educational way. Charlie's impacted millions and millions of people, primarily young people, but people of all ages, including myself. Charlie was a colleague of mine with the Salem Media Group. Charlie will be missed, and he certainly leaves a big void. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette joined me yesterday to talk about the impact of and life of Charlie Kirk. I'll be sharing that conversation with you a little later in today's show. So let's get started. Yesterday morning, President Donald Trump broke the news that an arrest had been made of the suspect. Utah Governor Spencer Cox made the official announcement just a little later.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County.
And the governor proceeded to talk about how it all unfolded. Governor Cox revealed that 22-year-old Tyler Robinson was, in fact, arrested yesterday and booked in the Utah County Jail just 2 days after he shot and killed Charlie Kirk during his American Comeback Tour at Utah Valley University. Governor Cox says a family member of Robinson came forward. We understand that it was his father telling a friend that Robinson had confessed or strongly implied that he carried out the assassination. The tip was passed on to Washington County Sheriff's Office, then to the FBI and Utah County investigators. FBI Director Kash Patel confirmed that Robinson was taken into custody 10 p.m. local time Thursday night. Now, the interesting part about this is Thursday night, officials had a news conference. It was scheduled earlier in the evening, and they kept pushing it back. And finally, just around 10 p.m. Eastern time, Thursday, they had the conference, but it was kind of odd because it was short. They took no questions, and they really didn't give a whole lot more information other than they released new video and new photos that clearly showed this young man. So some of the earlier photos were a bit blurry, although I think if you're a family member, you probably would have recognized him. But with the updated video and the updated photos, it was very clear. If you knew this young man, you would have recognized him. It showed the surveillance footage of him on top of the building and running to the other side of the building after he had fired the shot, jumping off of the building, and then casually walking across a grassy area to a road, crossing the road, and continued to the wooded area where he dropped or left the gun. Now, there's been talk about his limp because in the video you see that he visibly limps. Some had speculated that he did that initially just to throw people off. Some now believe that maybe he hurt himself when he jumped from the building, because it was a pretty high jump, maybe 12, 15 feet. And you could see that he limped then. Surveillance footage placed Robinson on the UVU campus Wednesday morning around 8:29 a.m. He was driving a gray Dodge Challenger. Video showed him wearing a maroon T-shirt, light-colored shorts, black hat, white logo, light shoes. They later confirmed that they were Converse shoes based on an imprint that they discovered on the rooftop. Isn't it amazing how that quickly they were able to identify the type of shoes that he was wearing? When officers encountered Robinson in Washington County early Friday morning, he was still wearing clothes matching that description, according to reports. Of course, investigators recovered the .30-06 Mauser bolt-action rifle, believed to be the murder weapon, along with 3 unfired casings and the spent casings at the scene. Governor Cox said some of the casings had bizarre inscriptions, including "Hey Fascist, catch," followed by arrow symbols. Another said, "O Bella Ciea, O Bella Ciea." I don't know what that means. I guess someone said it was lyrics from an old anti-fascist song. One read, "If you read this, you are gay. Laugh my A off." Authorities say Robinson's Discord messages referenced retrieving the rifle from a drop point, which helped lead investigators to him. According to other reports, this Discord message, a friend of Robinson's was aware of the Discord and showed it to authorities and showed it to where he was asking this friend and gave him great detail of the exact location of where the weapon was hidden, wrapped in a cloth, a black cloth, and asking him to retrieve the rifle. He did not, of course. The FBI says it received over 11,000 tips from the public. And that's encouraging that people would get involved and want to share what they had. They've had thousands of people upload photos and videos who are at the event. Utah County Sheriff Mike Smith praised the unprecedented cooperation among local, state, and federal agencies, saying most officers involved have been running on an hour of sleep at best since the attack earlier in the week. For now, authorities believe that this young Robinson acted alone, and no further arrests are expected. He's behind bars, but the investigation is far from over because there's a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions to be answered. Some of his friends who have been interviewed, according to the FBI and officials, said that he was a very angry young man, that he had a lot of issues. And you'd have to do what he did. But it's just hard for me to comprehend how you can be that angry that you want to take someone else's life. Someone like Charlie Kirk, whom I would dare say he's probably never even met. But obviously, he did not like Charlie Kirk's message of family and faith. He did not agree with Charlie Kirk's political issues or political stances on the political issues. He obviously felt that Charlie Kirk was a fascist. There's been rumor, and right now it is just that, rumor, speculation, that this young man has had mental illness issues. It makes sense. And that maybe there's a transgender element involved too. There's been a lot of speculation based on the fact that just at about the same time that Charlie was shot, he was answering a transgender question. Hopefully in time we'll learn all the details. But I guess the big question now is, what next? What is the appropriate sentence for this young man? President Trump called for the death sentence. The governor, in the very first news conference that he held the other day, also said or reminded people that Utah still has the death sentence. I think it would be appropriate. I think it would send a clear message to maybe other people, particularly young men, Have you noticed that a lot of these shooters are 20-somethings? And I think it would send a clear message that you're going to be held responsible. And if you take a life, your life, you're going to be giving up your life as well, because we're going to execute you for these types of offenses. For now, we continue to pray for Charlie Kirk's young wife, young kids, for Turning Point USA and the staff and all the employees, everybody who is directly affected by this horrible, horrible incident. Joining up next, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, as I caught up with her earlier, and we talked about the impact Charlie Kirk has had. On our guest line, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. I can't believe, woke up this morning still in shock over our friend Charlie Kirk.
Yep.
Can't believe what happened. And, it's like a double whammy, because today is 9/11. All of us who remember, what happened on that day and how many wonderful people lost their lives. It's kind of a heavy day, for sure.
It really is a sad, sad day on so many different levels, as we witness the political assassination of my Salem media colleague, Charlie Kirk, part of our company, part of our network. When I first heard that he had been shot, it was just surreal. It was hard to believe. And then when the chyrons started, popping up on our TV screen, Charlie Kirk shot. And at that point, we didn't know what the situation was. Our CEO at Salem had let us know that he was alive at that time, but in critical condition. But you saw some of the videos that were being circulated, and you're thinking, how does he survive this? And of course, he did not.
I know. My prayer is that Charlie never knew really what happened.
Yeah.
Right? That it was one of those things that when something horrible like this happens, you always go to, wow, I hope they didn't suffer. I hope he didn't know. But this is it's a wake up call. We say this all the time when bad things happen, but people need to wake up. I mean, the left and how they handled this after it happened, is really shocking and appalling. And the leaders of their parties should really come together. I heard this morning that one of the commentators for MSNBC was fired last night.
He was
for the very insensitive statements that he had made right after the shooting. So, it's something that I think, President Trump came out last night with a very, I want to say, a very powerful statement saying that this is going to end. He is not going to allow people to go after law enforcement. He's not going to allow media to talk about, to be so irresponsible as to talk. And he knows this. It's been him. It's been people like Charlie. It's been conservatives. It's the way they talk about ICE. This dangerous, and now I think everybody should be able to agree, very dangerous rhetoric needs to stop.
Yeah. The thing with Charlie was, and I'm sure you've been to some of his events. I've been to many over the years, and it was just always amazed me. And what encouraged me so about Charlie and Turning Point USA was the fact that, you go there and there'd be 10,000 students, kids, young people there who wanted to be engaged, wanted to be involved. But the thing about Charlie was he was never hateful. It wasn't hate speech. He loved to debate. He loved to exchange ideas, and he was so quick on his feet. He was so smart, one of the smartest guys I know. And to think that has just been taken away from the young people in this country.
Well, I think it becomes the responsibility of Turning Point and all the people that were so closely involved in, Joey, all of us, right? What you do, what Mike does, we have got to now pick up the torch that's been dropped. And we really have to reach out to that community, right? To the college kids who, as Charlie said many times, are thirsting for the truth. They're thirsting for debate. And you're right. He offered them that perspective, that counter perspective that they weren't getting. I mean, they were only hearing one side of every story, and he was making them think, right? Whether he was saying, tell me what a woman is. Tell me why life isn't important to you. Like, tell me why. Like, he really wanted to hear what they thought, and he challenged them with his opinion. But like you said, in a very respectful way, not hurtful, not mean, just the counter ideas that they had to take away thinking about. And he said it many times, and they were playing this yesterday a lot, where he said, when you stop talking is when violence begins.
And he was right.
And he felt very strong.
It's just he's an amazing young man, and to think that he started that organization, Turning Point USA, when he was 18 years old. And I've been watching Charlie because of the organization. I was just amazed of his organization. But then when he joined Salem Media and became part of our team, and I had the chance to get to know him a little better, it's just amazing what he has accomplished. And, I don't know how you protect against something like that. I mean, he loved being out on those college campuses. He, always had the same setup. He had the white tent with the Turning Point logo on it. He sat under there with a microphone out front that anyone could ask him anything. And when you're out in the public like that, I don't know how you could do anything differently.
I know, I don't know. It's sad to think, like, is now anybody who would continue a person, right? You have to put them indoors. It's kind of like we saw with the president, right? We had outdoor rallies everywhere I traveled with the president. Mostly were outdoor rallies, even in the cold weather. And then, people start saying, well, we got to bring these things indoors so that we have a better idea. We can protect the people that are talking and protect the people in the venue. But, the political violence that the left throws our way, you look at just the president attempted assassination twice. Look at what happened to Lee Zeldin. Now you see what happens to Charlie Kirk. Their rhetoric has to stop. This everyday calling Republicans a threat to democracy. Just the sharp way they talk. Jasmine Crockett, she incites violence at every turn, talking about physical altercations. Their rhetoric needs to be stopped, and I'm once again proud of the president for saying this will end. He will make sure now that this ends, and I think he gave a very strong warning to Democrats across the country when it comes to law enforcement. That's why I felt like the HALO Act, it was such a common sense thing that we need to pass here in South Carolina. We've got to keep law enforcement safe. We've got to keep our ICE agents safe, and we've got to keep our elected officials safe. We're continuing to be demonized by, mental health is on a rise. And then you have, Democrats and media standing out there and saying the things that they're saying. It doesn't take long for somebody who's suffering from mental illness to feel like they're doing something noble and righteous. And, those people have blood on their hands. They had blood on their hands when it happened with President Trump. And this is the first time that this young generation, Joey, has seen somebody truly assassinated. And I think it's going to leave a very strong mark on young people on college campuses all across this country.
Well, the only thing we can hope is that this will wake people up finally and we can get back to a more sane conversation and this violence stops. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, it's always a pleasure, and you definitely be safe out there.
Thank you, Joey. You too, and I look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Absolutely. See you on Saturday at the Farm Fest.
All right. Take care of everybody. Everybody be safe, and please keep Charlie's wife and his young children in your prayers. It's going to be a very difficult time ahead.
Yep, sure thing. As we continue our remembrance of Charlie Kirk, just who was this guy who had taken the nation by storm, particularly the young people across America? He had become one of the most powerful conservative leaders in both culture and politics before his life, of course, was tragically cut short at the age of 31. Charlie Kirk, the founder of one of the most influential political organizations in the country, was shot while holding an event on the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. He later died of his wound, leaving the country reeling from another act of horrific political violence. And make no qualms about this. I mean, this was political violence. He was a political target. He was a political assassin. This was a political assassination. Even the governor of Utah was very clear with that when he said at the news conference that this was an assassination, and he reminded people that Utah does have the death penalty. It's an amazing story, though, and I've watched Charlie Kirk for years because he started out as this young 18-year-old who was the founder of this Turning Point USA. And in the early days, you thought, well, just exactly who is this guy? Because he's very articulate. You may have seen his first appearance on Fox and Friends way back when he was just an 18-year-old teenager, how articulate he was even then. And this man, young man, has grown this organization into just a huge political movement. I heard somewhere he had 3,500 chapters of Turning Point USA, either on high school campuses or college campuses across the country. He could easily get thousands and thousands of people to come to his conferences. I've been to a number of them over the years. And it would just astound me that 10,000 kids would show up from a particular region to attend these conferences. 10,000 very enthusiastic, America-loving kids would show up. Charlie Kirk grew up in the northern Chicago suburbs. He got his start in politics while he was in high school as a volunteer for the 2010 campaign of former Republican Senator Mark Kirk. They were not related. In 2012, as a high school senior, he got national attention for warning about liberal bias in high school economics textbooks. He was outspoken about dropping out of college to pursue his political activism. And as I mentioned, at just 18 years old, Charlie Kirk, along with Bill Montgomery, co-founded Turning Point USA. They're known for promoting conservative causes on college campuses and eventually branched out into high schools as well. And in the 13 years since its founding, Turning Point USA has become the most prominent and influential conservative groups among young people in the nation. Again, holding several massive events throughout the year, which have drawn big-name speakers, including President Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been the keynote speaker a number of times at Turning Point USA. And many people will say that Turning Point Action, which is a subsidiary of this group, is the political arm, played a pivotal role in boosting Republican turnout across the country in 2024 that probably got Donald Trump reelected, sent him back to the Oval Office. This Turning Point Action, again, the more political arm of Turning Point USA, it's the PAC where he could raise money. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, "No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you." Charlie Kirk leaves behind his wife, Erica, and 2 young children. He was one of the biggest names in digital media and host of the Charlie Kirk Show, one of my colleagues with Salem Media over the years. His social media footprint was massive, with more than 5 million followers on X, nearly 7 million followers on Instagram, and more than 3.8 million subscribers on YouTube. Charlie Kirk had a big voice. People listened when Charlie Kirk talked. He's widely credited for energizing the conservative movement and helping the Republican Party appeal to younger Americans. We saw it work last year. We saw particularly young men show up at the polls. He's known for his unapologetic political and cultural commentary, and it earned him fanfare among conservatives of all ages. But it also made him the subject of harsh criticism and derision. He embraced dialogue. He embraced open debate. He welcomed students who opposed his views to ask him questions during his campus visits, and that's exactly what he was doing yesterday when he died. But most importantly, as a Christian, Charlie also spoke openly about his faith and its meaning in his life. He said just last month, Jesus is honestly the most important thing. This was why he's discussing NFL quarterback Lamar Jackson resharing his faith-based post. His iconic college campus visits, and they were iconic. They were recently lampooned on South Park, which Charlie said was a badge of honor. Kirk often attracted protest and ideological foes when he visited campuses, creating ready-made viral moments on his social media. Back in July, when he learned about this satire, he said, I think it's kind of funny, and it kind of goes to show the cultural impact and the resonance that our movement has been able to achieve. He said they're professional comedians. They're probably going to roast me, and I think that's fine, and that's what it's all about, being in public life and, making a difference, and I'm going to have a good spirit about it. I'll watch it. I'm going to laugh at it, he said. He said from a religious standpoint, we're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. Like from a more practical life standpoint, we're all broken people. Stop taking yourself so seriously. That's probably one of the problems that we've had in our politics, is that people just can't take a joke. And he's right, isn't he? And that was the attitude that we all just grew to admire about Charlie Kirk. Because with that type of following, with the audience that Charlie Kirk had on his radio show, on his podcast, and all the other social media, it'd be very easy for someone to start taking yourself way too seriously with that type of voice. As someone in the business, trust me, I know. But I think that was part of the beauty and what attracted people to Charlie Kirk was he really didn't take himself too seriously. He viewed his work as being serious, but he never took himself or put himself on a pedestal. He just felt like he was doing God's work on this earth. The assassin this week not only silenced a voice currently, but potentially a future leader, as Charlie was often asked if he would ever run for office.
Would you ever consider making a run for the presidency?
You knew that was coming. I'm 31 years old. I got a great life. And my mission right now is defend the Trump administration on the great stuff they're doing, get J.D. Vance elected as the next president of the United States in 2028. And if they ever run out of people, I don't even know if I would consider it. You know why? People say, are you going to run for Senate or Congress? I'd say, listen, honestly, I think the impact we're making is bigger than sometimes some of the U.S. senators. I don't know if you guys agree or not.
I do.
But again, I'm not trying to, be braggadocious, but I can say what I want to say. We have a very successful podcast. Who listens to the Charlie Kirk Show? Anybody? I mean, it's amazing.
Wow.
Thank you guys. And our campus tours are sweeping the country, billions of views. I got over 1,000 employees. I'm the most blessed. I have to pinch myself when I wake up every single day that I get to be able to do this as my job. And so I never want to lose that. I always just want the highest and greatest impact.
Continuing today's show as we remember Charlie Kirk. One of Charlie's quiet superpowers wasn't just filling arenas with thousands and thousands of people, which he could easily do, but it was the way he handled those raw, honest questions in the campus Q&As that he often did and ultimately lost his life in one this week. No sneering, no dunking, just conviction of a calm, courteous young man who respected everybody's opinion and their right to express that opinion, whether they agreed or disagreed with him. In this exchange I want to share with you, A young man steps up to a microphone, nervous, respectful, and he asks the question that many believers wrestle with, explaining to Charlie that his girlfriend doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. But how does he influence her? Because he wants to marry a Christian. He wants to spend the rest of his life with a Christian girl. So his question to Charlie was, how do you persuade your mate to believe? Listen to the exchange.
I'm lucky to have found the love of my life. However, she's not where I am in my journey with Christ, and I want to have a marriage centered around Christ, and I want to know what are some of the best ways I can help guide her towards our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, so that we can share a happy future together.
It's a phenomenal question. What is her objection as to why she will not follow Jesus?
She doesn't really know how there can be a higher power when there's so much evil in the world.
So here's what you should say. Their evil cannot exist if there is no standard of good. She only knows something is evil because she believes there's a transcendent good. Evil does not exist. Evil is just an opinion if there is no God. Murder is not wrong if there is no God. Stealing is not wrong if there is no God. So the way to convince her of that is that you're not the first person to wrestle with the question of evil. The more important question is it actually evil? Or is it just an opinion? And we know as believers that there's an absolute standard above us that we appeal to. The Bible tells us two things. God will use all things for good for those who love him, Romans 12:2. But that might not satisfy her. Instead, the question of evil should be, we as Christians, we have to explain a couple things. It's really tough for us to wrestle with the fact that these girls are at Christian summer camp and they get washed away in a flood. It's tough, right? We have to explain child cancer and flooding and earthquakes. But the atheist, they have to explain everything else. They have to explain why we exist. What is love? What is mercy? Why is it that our universe came to being? Is there a standard of good? Is there a standard of evil? Just because there is evil does not mean there is no God. In fact, it means the only reason you know it's evil is because there's a transcendent, perfect standard of good, and that is God himself.
And that was classic Charlie Kirk. He connected with the younger generation. He didn't reach for a zinger. He slowed things down. And he talked with these, and I'm going to say kids because at my age, most of them were kids, but he talked with them at their level. And he, as you heard, he pointed this young man to things that Christians need to do. Lead with love, not leverage. You can't nag someone into the kingdom, but you can kind of lead them in that direction. This young man obviously loved his girlfriend and wanted to marry her, but it really was a problem that she wasn't a Christian. Charlie often talked about live it before you say it. Let your life preach louder than your lips. He talked about the questions. Ask better questions. Open doors. Don't try to win arguments, but try to persuade people with the facts. And in this case, pointed out very clearly that, yes, there's evil in this land, but it doesn't mean there's not a God. Charlie often anchored answers like this in Scripture that a lot of us know, but we need to be reminded of, need to practice. Always be ready to give an answer with gentleness and respect, 1 Peter. It's God's kindness that leads to repentance, Romans 2:4. And the reminder that without love, we're just noise, as is talked about in 1 Corinthians 13. Charlie had a way of just flipping the persuasion from pressure to patience as he encouraged this young man, pray for her, serve her, invite her to explore, trust the Holy Spirit to do what only he can do. That's vintage Charlie Kirk. Strong, soft, with a clear road leading back to Jesus Christ. Now, Charlie was never afraid of hard conversations either, the ones that live right at the intersection of faith, biology, public policy, but they can be controversial to a degree. In this next exchange, you'll hear Charlie debating a thoughtful young woman on a question that's become oddly controversial. Are there only two genders, male and female, and why shouldn't it be hard to define what a woman is? Listen to this.
Let me ask you, can anyone become a woman?
I mean...
Guys, please.
Yes, I mean... It doesn't have anything to do with me, so yes.
Okay, listen, if a biological man came next to you in your dormitory or locker room, would you be okay with that?
If they came next to me,
and started
sure.
changing next to you?
Sure. What does that have to do with me? I mean, if that person felt more comfortable because they identified as a woman, then I wouldn't mind. But if I identified as a man, then maybe. If they were hostile towards me, then I would care. But if it was someone that identified as a woman and they weren't hostile towards me, no, I wouldn't mind.
Wow.
You feel differently? I'm sure.
Now, this is an example of how Charlie clearly disagreed with this young woman. One of the ground rules that Charlie always used was that he would try to convince with clarity, not cruelty, that we can disagree without demeaning each other. And in that spirit, he would often give examples and again, use common sense arguments. With this gender issue that has just gone nuts over the past few years, I mean, Charlie often argued human sex is biologically binary. It's biological, period. It's how God made us. There's no gray area. He often talked about a woman is an adult human female. Then he asked precise, respectful questions. If the definition shifts with feelings, how do we enforce fairness in women's athletics or Title IX? How do we protect privacy in locker rooms? Clear language to try to debate his point of view. But if he never got to that point, if he wasn't able to convince, which this young lady, he obviously was not, because she seemed to think it was okay for a male to think they're a female or vice versa. She didn't seem to, or she pretended that it wouldn't bother her if a male was in the locker room with her or in a restroom with her. We don't know. She could have just been trying to make the argument for attention. But Charlie didn't try to demean her. He didn't try to talk her down. He just used his faith, like he often did in this conversation, insisting that every person is made in the image of God, worthy of dignity, while still saying truth matters, especially where safety and fairness are, and when there's such a clear answer. But often you'd hear him invite the conversation based on evidence, not catchy slogans. And he would use real-world, simple, common-sense examples, not hypotheticals. And he always keeps the tone steady, even when the temperature rises. You notice in that section, some of the students were about to get rowdy. They were going to try to shout her down, and he said, guys, calm down. Let's let her speak. Because in the end, Charlie Kirk respected everyone's opinion. That's what made him so special. Charlie Kirk will truly be missed. His voice will be missed. And again, as I said earlier, not only did the assassin silence a very important voice in today's world, but a potential leader down the road. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.